A veteran from the days of Menace 8 on the 3DS, it is the Stork type, HBK00 Steel Stork, with the kit of triple anti-C, light legs, and the leg ability of Through Shot, which grants a chance for shooting attacks to ignore defense and bypass shields when attacking. Now, as a model that's available as a 2-star design in the permanent banner, Steel Stork is a design that pretty much anyone can get early on or even in late game at least 100 times. And with that being said, despite a relatively niche kit, he still does have some pretty forgivable points going in his favor. Anti-C on all 3 parts is a shooting skill with a rather unique damage condition, but when met can be absolutely catastrophic. In particular, he will fire a torpedo at the incoming enemy, but if the enemy in question has a C-based leg or is meta changed into a C-based model, neither matters. It will be dealing much higher damage bonus than originally intended, at a staggering times 5 bonus of what the base power or intended damage was to be. In all other situations though, Anti-C will be dealing relatively minimal to nominal damage at best, making Steel Stork sadly niche pretty much right out of the gate, but as a 2-star model that is relatively to be expected to a point too. However, it is still worth noting that despite this, it is still worth having him on hand, even if just for the sake of having him on standby, because even if a Super Invasion or a PvP League comes around, he definitely will be that dark horse and an ace in the hole where you least expect it. Plus, having Through Shot as a leg ability honestly makes his relatively dangerous attacks even more so catastrophic if the condition can be met, as Through Shot grants a chance to ignore defense, which will ignore the enemy's resist stats on their legs, but this also means that if there is a shield in play on the enemy side, Steel Stork's torpedo will fly right past it and target exactly who it is he wants to shoot. Light legs also means that Steel Stork will have relatively high base mobility and evade on top of that, of course stacking at a expected heavy limit of 0 and relatively light on the resist stats, but more on those in just a minute. For the armor department, Steel Stork isn't too shabby, packing about 3100 for the head, about 3150 per arm, and his legs about 3250, so a moderately healthy HP pool, as to be expected of a permanent banner bot that pretty much anyone can get a hold of. And then on topic of his leg stats, he is packing a mobility of 956, which is definitely on that upper tier of where most flight legs tend to be at, so definitely a very good spot there. And an evade of just over 1900 also is very good too, as this does mean that as long as he's not tacked with no defend, he will have a pretty easy time dodging or grazing a lot of incoming blows. But because he is flight-legged, it is also worth noting that he is subject to the anti-air weakness, which will very easily gun this bird down. On topic of his resist stats, that's where he sadly falls flat. A melee resist of 350 is honestly terrible, as this does mean anyone that does manage to get up close in his space will very easily cripple this bird, if not outright kill him, thanks to having very low, essentially paper resistance with his armor there. A shoot resist of 821 is just a little bit better than that, but honestly, not by much, as this means even when taking pot shots from afar, he is going to be taking a pretty considerable amount of incoming damage. This does mean that Steel Stork will be banking very heavily on being able to rely on his evade stat to dodge or graze attacks and keep his damage as low as possible. All this being said, as a pure set score, I still do have to rate Steel Stork a pretty flat 4.5 out of 10. This is primarily for the fact that even though in the right conditions he can be an absolute menace and a nightmare to the enemy side, that's precisely it. Given the fact that he has anti-C on all 3 parts means he is a very incredibly niche model, and aside from the one situation where the enemy has a C leg, he's sadly useless everywhere else, even if Through Shot buffs his damage even higher. As mixed parts though, I have to rate him notably higher at a 6 out of 10. Given, like I said, that he is a permanent banner bot, this does mean that anyone can collect Steel Stork very easily, and even though he has paper resist stats on his legs, the mobility and the evade are still worth considering even for the ability of Through Shot. You just have to exercise some very heavy caution when using these legs, and guarantee that you have a shielder on the team to cover for them if you are using them.